Using AI in medical writing. This is a brand new course, and this course would be remiss if I did not talk about a little bit how to use AI in medical writing. Of course, if you want the deep dive, I do have a website, AIMWE, AIMWE course.com, and you can check that out for free resources. And of course, I do offer a deeper dive that you can sign up to. Learning about AI is a lot like drinking water through a fire hose. I'm sure we've had this experience, or maybe not. But if you don't feel like that, then maybe you're not learning enough to keep up. Anyway, it's a huge deal, and I would recommend seeking out podcasts and looking on LinkedIn for some of the thought leaders in this area. Ethan Mollick is a good name to follow. And there are lots of teachers, including myself, that will teach you about AI in medical writing. AI usage just continues to increase. OpenAI's ChatGPT has reached 400 million weekly active users, and over the next year, OpenAI is planning to reach 1 billion active users. Depending on when you listen to this, maybe they've already reached that goal. The important thing about AI in medical writing, why there have been a lot of negative opinions, is because you have to be accurate in medical writing. And if you don't use AI correctly, you are going to get hallucinations, even though it's improved dramatically. So, what you want to avoid doing is typing something like this into ChatGPT and expecting it to give you accurate information. Write 3 paragraphs on CAR T-cell therapy in follicular lymphoma. It might make a good start, but some of it will be accurate and some of it probably will not be. And if you tell it to put in PubMed references, it will literally make up references. It wants to please you. And it's getting better, but you cannot rely on AI in this way to do what you need it to do, even though it is, quite a nice thought to just sit there and watch ChatGPT do your work for you, but it doesn't work like that. So, to avoid hallucinations, you want to understand that chatbots create sentences based on probabilities, and the output tends towards a mean or the most likely next word. And if you understand that, you're going to understand that it's going to create hallucinations, and there's going to be issues with logical reasoning and math, for example, although some models now overcome this, and this is changing and getting better. But it may do okay if you provide an abstract or a PDF to summarize. So, in that way, you're constraining its activity. So, instead of ChatGPT reaching out into the vast pool of training, if you give it an abstract and you say, write up a summary, then it does pretty well with that. You can use ChatGPT as components of a greater whole. You're still putting everything together and you're still putting your brain on it and to make sure it's accurate. But that's a way in which you can use ChatGPT and other chatbots in medical writing. So going back to this prompt, write 3 paragraphs on CAR T-cell therapy. What do you use instead? Well, the thing to do is to use Perplexity, Gemini, Deep Research, or ChatGPT, Deep Research, for researching scientific topics. You can use Perplexity AI, even the free version, for a short query on something or for finding references to support a statement. So, for example, I'm working on a piece where an editor had put in this sentence and had put TK, and otherwise she wanted me to just provide a reference for it. So I just took that sentence and I put it into Perplexity. And what it does is it will give you a bunch of references that will confirm the statement. Some of them are not what you would want to reference. They might be reputable sources, but I don't really know anything about this and I can't reference it in this article that I'm writing. So I will look down here for maybe a PubMed reference and let's click on this one, for example, and you can see that this is a legit reference that would support that statement. And then this is the ChatGPT interface. These might look different if you're using the free or paid version. This is the paid version, $20 a month. But if I were to just ask anything here, I'd run the risk of having hallucinations. But if I do an in-depth search, it will use references and you'll have the sources to the information. And again, so often the sources for Perplexity, ChatGPT, and Gemini are reputable, but they can be commercial, so you can't really use them. And you also always want to do a straightforward PubMed search when you're researching the literature. And then let me move on to crafting an effective prompt. I like to use what I call the ROTE acronym. There are other ways to do this, but you can put in a prompt, write me something, but it's not very specific and it won't give you very good results. But if you put in your role, and I'll go through an example, objective, what you're trying to achieve, the task, a little bit more specific, and then an explanation, example, or elaboration, more information that is needed in that specific query. Let's say I want to write an email asking an author questions about their study. This is a pretty common task if you're writing a news piece, for example. So your role, you're telling ChatGPT that it's a world-class medical writer and science journalist. The objective that you would give it is your overall goal is to write a news article for a clinician audience based on the provided studies. So this is just for one study. To enhance the article, you need to gather relevant insights and direct quotes from the study author. So you're giving the objective. Now the task is specifically you need to, and I'm not going to read this out. You can read this slide here, but you can tell also that this is quite a detailed prompt, and I did ask ChatGPT to finesse the prompt to make it as good as possible. So it's a little meta, but you can ask ChatGPT to optimize a prompt for you if you want. Okay. And then the explanation here is additional information, and then you should attach the full text PDF to the query so that ChatGPT will give you your questions. So that's just one example. And if you go to amycourse.com, you can download for free these prompts for medical and science writing. These are prompts to help you write an outline, summarize a single PubMed abstract, and these are all using the ROTE method that I've just described, summarizing paragraphs of an article, generating a summary from a PubMed search. So it'll give you all these different ideas. Maybe some of them you've already thought of, and maybe some of them you haven't. So I'd recommend going there and just downloading this document from amycourse.com. And then when you use AI, so let's say you do take some of the output, you've deemed that it's accurate, you want to make sure that your content does not seem AI generated. There are such things as AI detectors that you can put in text and see if it's being AI generated. And here's one of them. They're free to a certain limit of words. GPT0.me is this one, but there are others. But you can just paste in text. Let's take some AI generated text and paste it in there. So I typed in what are the different types of arthritis, just a random query, and it made me a nice list. And so I'm just going to paste that in. And you can see it's AI is 100%. If it was human written, you'd see a little bit of green in here. So it's 100% AI generated, which we know that for sure. And so I put in a query into ChatGPT and I was curious, how do they detect it? It gave me an answer, but it looks for things like perplexity, not to be confused with what I was just talking about. Perplexity and burstiness. AI detectors look at how predictable text is and the variation in sentence length and complexity. Human writing tends to be more surprising and varied. All right. So that's a really important statement. So when you get a chunk of AI generated text, you definitely want to go through it. You want to vary the sentence length and you want to put in your own writing voice. Hopefully, we've all been writing for basically as long as we've been, since grade school. And so we have our own writing voice, whether or not it's professional level writing skill, that's another thing. But you want to put in that varied writing voice. So if you see something that you wouldn't write or it just seems dull, how do you liven it up with an anecdote? How do you change it up? AI is usually more predictable and statistically probable than human writing. Definitely. Detectives analyze grammar, syntax, and writing rhythm to find patterns typical of AI generated content. So just something to be aware of. You can definitely use AI to generate like a base for you, but you want to definitely make it your own and change out words that you would not use. Use anecdotes and things relevant to your situation that would not be used to ChatGPT. That will vary based on what you're writing about, obviously, but definitely think about how can I make this non-ChatGPT looking? Mix up the sentence lengths, as I mentioned. I'd also eliminate the words crucial and delve. To me, those are just red flags that something's been AI generated. Keep an eye out for those. And then keep in mind, all good writing shows and it doesn't tell. ChatGPT is very good at telling, it's very good at sort of pumping out information. It's not so good at showing, so giving examples and including important anecdotes that you might even have in medical writing as well. And then Google Notebook LM, you need a Google account. So it's notebooklm.google.com. What you can do is get a bunch of different references as sources and upload into there. And you can see here, I've got these different sources. There are actual papers that I downloaded. And then you can go to Google Notebook LM and query it. It is super easy to use. So let's just, it gave me a suggested prompt here. So I'm going to use that one. Gonna put that prompt in. So basically, you can just query and it gives you this reference here. This actually comes from your sources. So you can absolutely use it to reference. It tends to write in bullets and not full paragraphs, but you can definitely use this and use it as a basis for what you're writing about in a manuscript. Super useful. Check it out if you haven't already. And then another important issue for confidential projects, which is some of what we do in medical writing, you definitely want to think about ways to be confidential with your work. You want to, first of all, get permission from your client or consider whether or not to use. If you're uploading advisory board transcript, which is confidential to the client, you don't want to just put that into ChatGPT and hope for the best. All right. Now, what won't happen is it will not appear in someone else's window as being the full on advisory board meeting that you don't want to put into there. It won't appear anywhere else. But what will happen is it will be used later on by OpenAI to train their model. And you don't want to do that. So you want to make sure, first of all, that anything you put in there is anonymized. And then, really important, you can go to the settings. It will vary probably by the time you watch this, they keep changing it. And then, if you don't mind using Copilot Pro and not ChatGPT or anything else, then you can sign up for a Microsoft 365 business account and use Copilot Pro. That's supposed to be very secure. That would be a corporate solution, I would say, but for freelancing, maybe not. And then there's a website called jan.ai. And this is a little more technically involved and it doesn't always work, but I've successfully been able to download a large language model locally to my computer. It's not on the internet, so you can put anything into it, and it's not on anybody's platform like OpenAI or Gemini. It's not on there, so you don't have to worry about it. So that's really good too. All right, so just a few little tips. And again, do visit my Amy course to get the full on training. And there's also a free course on AI there too. And don't be a sitting duck. You need to learn this stuff to be in medical writing. So don't be intimidated. Keep an open mind. Once you get used to many of these tools, you'll be like, how did I manage this job without it? I often think that every day. In fact, I think I'm really glad that AI is in the picture because it does make the job easier and you do your job better. It's not just faster, but you do much more of a better job than you could possibly do without the use of AI.